The slap echoed through the sterile hospital room like a gunshot, sharp and vicious. Lila Chen's head snapped to the side, her swollen cheek burning as tears sprang to her eyes. She gasped, clutching her enormous belly as another contraction seized her body, doubling her over in agony. "Please," Lila whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, I need help. The baby." "You think you're special because you married some criminal?" Nurse Tamsin Lee hissed, her face twisted with contempt. She grabbed Lila's arm, her nails digging into the soft flesh. "Women like you disgust me. Coming here with your designer bags and your blood money, thinking you own the world." Lila tried to pull away, but another contraction tore through her, stealing her breath. She collapsed back against the hospital bed, sweat pouring down her face. The pain was unbearable, radiating from her lower back and wrapping around her abdomen like a vice. She'd been in labor for 6 hours now, and Nurse Tamsin had refused her every request: water, pain medication, even permission to call her husband. "My husband," Lila managed between gasps. "I need to call my husband." Tamsin's laugh was cold and brittle. "Your husband? You mean Dante Moreno, the man who destroyed my brother's business, the man who left my family with nothing." She leaned closer, her breath hot against Lila's ear. "You're going to suffer, just like we suffered. And there's nothing your precious MAFIA boss can do about it. Before you continue watching, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Drop a comment below telling us what you think will happen next, and don't forget to like this video. Now, let's get back to the story. Lila's vision blurred with tears as Tamsin stormed toward the door. "Wait, please don't leave me alone. Something's wrong, I can feel it." But Tamsin was already gone, the heavy door slamming shut behind her. Lila heard the distinct click of a lock engaging, and her heart plummeted. She was trapped, locked in this room like an animal, in the most vulnerable moment of her life. She pressed her hands against her belly, feeling her daughter moving restlessly inside her. "Hold on, little one," she whispered. "Your papa will come. He'll find us. He always does." But doubt crept in, cold and insidious. Dante was in a meeting across town, negotiating with some of the most dangerous men in Celeria City. He'd kissed her forehead that morning, his dark eyes soft with concern. "I'll have my phone on," he'd promised, running his thumb across her cheek. "The moment you need me, I'm there. You understand?" She'd nodded, believing him completely. Dante Moreno was many things. A criminal, a killer, a man who operated in shadows, but he'd never broken a promise to her. Not once in their 3 turbulent years together. Another contraction hit, stronger than before, and Lila screamed. The sound was swallowed by the thick walls of the VIP maternity wing, where privacy was paramount and soundproofing was exceptional. No one would hear her. No one was coming. Across the city, in a penthouse office overlooking Celeria's glittering skyline, Dante Moreno sat at the head of a mahogany conference table, his posture deceptively relaxed. His tailored black suit fit him like a second skin, emphasizing broad shoulders and a body honed by violence. Dark hair fell across his forehead, and his eyes, deep brown, almost black, surveyed the room with predatory calm. "You're asking for 40%, Dante said, his voice smooth as silk and twice as dangerous. "That's ambitious, Castellano." Marco Castellano, a heavyset man with nervous hands, shifted in his seat. "The shipment comes through my territory. 40% is standard." "Standard would be 15, Dante replied, leaning forward, slightly. The movement was subtle, but every man in the room tensed. "You want 40. You need to convince me you're worth it." The tension in the room was electric. Dante's reputation preceded him. A man who'd built an empire before his 30th birthday, who commanded loyalty through a combination of fear and respect, who could be generous or merciless depending on his mood. Today, his mood was already stretched thin. He wanted this meeting over. He wanted to be at the hospital with Lila. His phone sat on the table in front of him, screen dark. She hadn't called yet, but the baby was due any day now. Any moment that phone could light up, and everything else would cease to matter. "Mr. Moreno," Castellano began, but Dante raised a hand, silencing him. 20%. Final offer. Take it or walk away." The room held its collective breath. Castellano's jaw worked, his face reddening, but he finally nodded. 20%. Good. Dante stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced ease. "Gentlemen, we're done here. My lawyer will send the contracts." The door burst open. Garrick, Dante's head of security, stood in the doorway, his usually composed face pale and urgent. He never interrupted meetings. Never. Dante's blood turned to ice. "What?" "Sir, it's Mrs. Moreno. There's a situation at Golden Dawn Medical Center." The words barely registered before Dante was moving. He swept past Garrick, his mind already calculating distances, routes, obstacles. Behind him, he heard Castellano say something, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered, except getting to Lila. "What situation?" Dante demanded as they reached the elevator. "Is she hurt?" Garrick's expression was grim. "One of our men was doing routine security checks. He overheard hospital staff talking about an incident in the VIP wing. A nurse was seen striking a patient, Mrs. Moreno's room." The elevator doors slid open. Dante stepped inside, his hands clenching into fists. "Someone hit my wife?" "Yes, sir. And from what we've gathered, she's been locked in her room. No one's attending to her." Red clouded Dante's vision. Pure, incandescent rage flooded his system, so intense it was almost cleansing. Someone had touched Lila. Someone had hurt her while she was vulnerable, in labor, carrying his child. "Call ahead," Dante said, his voice deadly calm. "I want that nurse's name. I want security footage. And I want the hospital director waiting for me when I arrive." The elevator descended, each floor ticking by with agonizing slowness. Dante's mind raced through possibilities, contingencies, revenge scenarios. He'd killed for less than this. Much less. But Lila wouldn't want that. She'd look at him with those soft brown eyes and ask him to be better, to choose a different path. God, he loved her. It terrified him sometimes. The depth of his feeling for this woman who'd stumbled into his life 3 years ago, a foreign exchange student caught in the crossfire of a gang dispute. He'd saved her that night, and she'd somehow saved him right back, seeing past the monster to the man underneath. The elevator reached the parking garage. Dante's black Mercedes was already running, another security guard behind the wheel. Dante climbed into the back, Garrick beside him. "Drive," Dante ordered. "Fast!" The car peeled out of the garage, tires squealing. Dante pulled out his phone, dialing Lila's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. "How long has she been locked in there?" he asked Garrick. "At least 2 hours, possibly longer." 2 hours. Lila had been suffering for 2 hours while he sat in a meeting discussing percentages and territories. Guilt joined the rage churning in his gut. "The nurse," Dante said. "What's her name?" Garrick consulted his phone. "Tamsin Lee. She's worked at Golden Dawn for 5 years. Clean record, until now." Lee. The name triggered something in Dante's memory. Any relation to David Lee? "I'm looking into it now." Garrick's fingers flew across his phone screen. "Yes, sir. David Lee was her brother. He owned a shipping company that went bankrupt 3 years ago after I refused to do business with him and spread the word he was unreliable," Dante finished. He remembered David Lee, a ambitious middleman who'd tried to skim profits and thought Dante wouldn't notice. Dante had shut him down completely, ensuring no one in Solaria would work with him again. He hadn't known Lee had a sister, hadn't known his business decision would lead to this moment, with Lila paying the price for his ruthlessness. The car wove through traffic, the driver using every gap and shortcut. Dante stared out the window, watching the city blur past. Solaria was his kingdom, a sprawling metropolis of 10 million people, and he controlled more of it than most politicians. Money flowed through his hands, power accumulated at his feet, but none of it meant anything if he couldn't protect the woman he loved. His phone rang. Hospital director. Mr. Moreno. Director Elaine Park's voice was tight with anxiety. I've been informed you're on your way. I want to assure you. Where is my wife? Dante interrupted. She's in room 412, VIP wing. I've sent staff. Is the door still locked? A pause. Yes, but we're working on... Get it open. Now. And get competent medical staff in there immediately. If anything happens to my wife or child, because of your incompetence, Director Park, I will personally ensure Golden Dawn Medical Center ceases to exist. Do you understand? Yes, Mr. Moreno, absolutely. We're doing everything... Dante ended the call. Through the windshield, he could see Golden Dawn Medical Center rising ahead, a sleek tower of glass and steel that catered to Solaria's wealthy elite. He'd chosen this hospital specifically because it promised the best care, the most privacy, the safest environment for Lila's delivery. What a joke. The car screeched to a halt at the emergency entrance. Dante was out before it fully stopped, Garrick close behind. Hospital security tried to intercept them, but one look at Dante's face had them stepping aside. He took the stairs, too impatient for elevators. 4 flights at a sprint, his expensive shoes pounding against concrete. Behind him, Garrick spoke rapidly into his phone, coordinating their arrival. The VIP wing was chaos. Director Park stood outside room 412, flanked by security guards and medical staff. A maintenance worker was crouched by the door, working on the electronic lock. Move, Dante commanded, his voice cutting through the nervous chatter. Everyone scattered. Director Park stepped forward, her professional mask barely concealing her fear. Mr. Moreno, we're so sorry about this situation. Nurse Lee has been placed on immediate suspension pending investigation, and we're bringing in our best obstetrician. Where is she? Dante asked. Where's the nurse who touched my wife? She's been escorted to security, Park replied quickly. I assure you, we take patient safety extremely seriously, and this incident, the lock clicked. The maintenance worker pushed the door open. Dante didn't hear the rest of Park's words. He was already moving, pushing past the staff crowding the doorway. The sight that greeted him stopped. His heart. Leela lay on the hospital bed, her face pale and streaked with tears, one cheek swollen and bruised. Her hospital gown was soaked with sweat, and she was curled on her side, arms wrapped around her belly, trembling. Dante, she gasped when she saw him, and the relief in her voice nearly broke him. He was at her side in 2 strides, gathering her carefully into his arms. She was shaking, her skin clammy and too hot at the same time. I'm here, he said, pressing his lips to her forehead. I'm here, mi amor. You're safe now. It hurts, Leela sobbed against his chest.
So much.
Dante, something's wrong.
Okay.
The baby hasn't moved in 20 minutes, and the contractions, they're too strong, too close together. I'm scared. Fear, sharp and primal, sliced through Dante's rage. He looked up at the medical staff hovering in the doorway. Why are you standing there? Get in here. Do your jobs. A male nurse pushed forward, his expression calm and professional. Mr. Moreno, I'm Nurse Victor Hsu. Let me examine your wife, please. Dante didn't want to let go, but Lila's hand squeezed his. Let him help, she whispered. Reluctantly, Dante stepped back, though he kept hold of Leela's hand. Victor moved efficiently, checking monitors, examining Lila with gentle competence that was the opposite of whatever hell she'd endured earlier. Mrs. Moreno, Victor said gently, your blood pressure is elevated, and you're dehydrated. How long since you've had water? She wouldn't give me any, Lila said weakly. Tamsin, she wouldn't give me anything. Victor's jaw tightened, but his hands remained steady. We're going to fix that right now. He looked at the other staff members. I need an IV started immediately. Get Dr. Chen here now. Tell her we have a laboring patient in distress, possible fetal compromise. Move, The room exploded into controlled activity. An IV was established, fluids flowing. A doctor arrived, a competent-looking woman who introduced herself as Dr. Miranda Chen, the head of obstetrics. Dante watched it all, his hand never leaving Lila's. She gripped him like a lifeline, her eyes squeezed shut as another contraction hit. "Breathe with me," he murmured, leaning close. "Just like we practiced. Remember? In through your nose, out through your mouth." "I can't," Lila panted. "It's too much. I can't." "Yes, you can. You're the strongest person I know." He pressed his forehead against hers, breathing with her, matching her rhythm until the contraction passed. Dr. Chen finished her examination, her expression serious. "Mrs. Moreno, your labor is progressing rapidly, but the baby's heart rate is showing some concerning decelerations. Nothing immediately dangerous, but we need to monitor closely. I also want to address the trauma you've experienced today. Can you tell me what happened?" Lila's eyes found Dante's, and he saw the fear there, the vulnerability she usually kept hidden. She was always so strong, his Lila, facing the world with quiet courage that amazed him. But now, she looked broken. "She hit me," Lila whispered. "Nurse Tamsin. She said I deserved it because of who I married. She locked me in here and left me alone." Dr. Chen's expression hardened. "That's completely unacceptable. I'm so sorry you experienced that." She turned to Director Park, who still hovered near the doorway. "Director, I need a full report on my desk within the hour. This is a catastrophic failure of patient care." Director Park nodded vigorously, but Dante wasn't satisfied. He fixed her with a look that had made hardened criminals confess their sins. "We'll be having a conversation about this, Director. A very thorough conversation about how your hospital operates and what changes will be implemented immediately." "Of course, Mr. Moreno. Whatever you need." "What I need," Dante interrupted, his voice dropping to a dangerous register, "is for everyone except Dr. Chen and Nurse Xu to leave this room. Now." The room cleared in seconds. Only the medical staff remained, focused on Leela. Dante returned his attention to his wife, smoothing her hair back from her forehead. Her eyes were glazed with pain, but she managed a weak smile. "You came," she whispered. "Did you think I wouldn't?" He kissed her knuckles one by one. "The world could be ending, and I'd still find my way to you. Your meeting doesn't matter. Nothing matters except you and our daughter." He felt the familiar surge of protectiveness, mixed now with something darker. Someone had hurt her, had struck her, terrorized her, left her suffering, and that person would pay. But not now. Now Lila needed him present, focused, calm. The rage could wait. Another contraction seized her, stronger than before. Lila cried out, her back arching, and Dante felt helpless. He'd faced down-armed men, negotiated with killers, built an empire through cunning and force, but he couldn't take away her pain. "You're doing so well," Dr. Chen encouraged. "The baby's heart rate is improving with the fluids. Mrs. Moreno, I need to be honest with you. Given the stress you've been under and how rapidly you're progressing, I think we're looking at delivery within the next few hours." Leela's eyes widened. "Hours? But I'm not ready." "Yes, you are," Dante said firmly. He cupped her face, making her look at him. "You are ready. We are ready. Our daughter is ready to meet her mama and papa." "I'm scared," Leela admitted, tears spilling over. "What if something goes wrong? What if—" "Nothing will go wrong." Dante put every ounce of conviction into those words. "I won't allow it. You hear me? I won't let anything happen to either of you." Dr. Chen smiled softly. "Mr. Moreno is right. You're both doing well now. The baby's vitals are stabilizing, and your body knows what to do. We'll be right here with you every step of the way." Nurse Victor adjusted the IV drip. "Mrs. Moreno, would you like some pain medication now? We can give you an epidural if—" "Yes," Lila gasped. "Please, yes." The anesthesiologist was called. While they waited, Dante held Lila through contractions that came faster and harder. He whispered to her in Spanish, the language of his childhood, words of love and encouragement that his own mother had once whispered to him. "You can do this. I believe in you." Leela clung to him, her nails digging into his arms. The physical pain didn't bother him. He'd endured far worse. What broke him was seeing her suffer, knowing someone had deliberately made it worse. The epidural was administered. Within 20 minutes, Lila's face relaxed, the tight lines of agony easing. She took a shuddering breath. "Better?" Dante asked. "So much better." Lila's hand found his face, tracing the sharp line of his jaw. "I knew you'd come. Even when I was scared, I knew." "Always," he promised. "No matter what. That's a vow, Lila. You and our daughter, you're my priority. Above everything else." Something shifted in her eyes, a warmth that had nothing to do with the drugs. "You're going to be an amazing father. I'm going to try." Dante had his doubts. What did a man like him know about raising a child? His own father had been violent, cruel, teaching lessons through fists and fear. Dante had sworn to be different, but the blood in his veins ran dark. Could he really protect his daughter from the monster he sometimes became? "Stop that," Lila said, reading his thoughts the way she always did. "You're not your father. You're nothing like him. You don't know—" "I know you," she insisted. "I know your heart, Dante Moreno. I know the man who sits with elderly Mrs. Rodriguez every Sunday because she's lonely. I know the man who paid for that kid's cancer treatment when his parents couldn't afford it. I know the man who cried when I told him I was pregnant." "I didn't cry," Dante protested weakly. "You absolutely did." Lila smiled, and despite everything, he found himself smiling back. This was what she did, found light in his darkness, softness in his hard edges. She made him want to be better. Dr. Chen checked the monitors. "Everything's looking good. Heart rate is strong and steady." "How are you feeling, Mrs. Moreno?" "Tired," Lila admitted. "But okay. When you think—" She never finished the question. Her eyes went wide, her hand flying to her belly. Oh, something's— I feel pressure. A lot of pressure." Dr. Chen moved quickly, examining her. "You're fully dilated. Mrs. Moreno, it's time. Your daughter is ready." The room transformed into organized chaos. More staff appeared, pediatric specialists, additional nurses, equipment wheeled into place. Dante found himself being handed a hospital gown to put over his suit, surgical mask pressed into his hands. "Stay by her head," Nurse Victor instructed. "Hold her hand. Help her breathe. And whatever you do, don't look down there unless you want an education." Dante almost laughed. He'd seen horrors that would haunt most men for life, but the thought of watching his daughter being born was somehow both terrifying and sacred. "Okay, Lila," Dr. Chen said, positioning herself. "On the next contraction, I need you to push. Push like you're trying to have the biggest bowel movement of your life." "Romantic," Lila muttered, and despite everything, Dante felt pride surge through him. Even in this moment, she had humor. The contraction built. Lila gripped Dante's hand so hard, he felt bones grind together, and she pushed with everything she had. Her face went red, tendons standing out in her neck. "Good," Dr. Chen encouraged. "That's perfect. Again, push, push, push." Lila pushed until she ran out of breath, gasping. Dante wiped sweat from her forehead, murmuring encouragement. "You're incredible," he told her. "So strong. Our daughter is almost here, just a little more." "I can't," Lila panted. "Dante, I can't do this." "You can. You are." He pressed his lips to her forehead. "One more push. Just one more, and we get to meet her." Another contraction. Leela bore down, her scream echoing off the walls. And then, a new sound filled the room. Small, indignant, absolutely beautiful. Their daughter's first cry. "She's here," Dr. Chen announced, lifting a tiny squirming bundle. "You have a beautiful baby girl." Dante's vision blurred. He watched as Dr. Chen placed their daughter on Lila's chest, and the world narrowed to this moment. His wife, exhausted and radiant. Their daughter, perfect in pink and screaming her fury at being forced into the cold world. "Hi, baby," Lila sobbed, her hands trembling as she touched their daughter's tiny head. "Hi, sweet girl. We're your mama and papa. We love you so much." Dante couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. His daughter stared up at them with dark, unfocused eyes. She had Leela's nose, his chin, a shock of black hair plastered to her head. She was impossibly small, impossibly perfect, and he was terrified. "Mr. Moreno?" Nurse Victor appeared at his elbow, smiling behind his mask. "Would you like to cut the umbilical cord?" Dante took the surgical scissors with hands that shook. Under Victor's guidance, he cut through the cord, officially separating his daughter from Lila. The symbolism wasn't lost on him. This was it. She was her own person now, separate and vulnerable, and it was his job to protect her. The pediatric team whisked the baby away to the warming table for checks. Dante wanted to follow, to stand guard, but Lila needed him too. He stayed by her side as Dr. Chen finished the delivery, watching his wife's face. "We did it," Lila whispered, tears streaming. "Dante, we have a daughter." "We do." He kissed her, tasting salt and joy. "Thank you. Thank you for her, for fighting, for being so incredibly brave." "I wasn't brave. I was terrified." "Bravery is being terrified and doing it anyway." Dante stroked her hair, his heart so full it hurt. "You're my hero, Lila Chen Moreno." 6 pounds, 8 ounces, a nurse called out. 20 inches long. All vitals look excellent. She's perfect. "Can I hold her?" Lila asked. "Please, I want to hold her." The baby was returned, wrapped in a pink blanket, a tiny hat on her head. Lila cradled her against her chest, and the baby's cries quieted, as if she recognized her mother's heartbeat. Dante sat on the edge of the bed, his arm around Lila, staring at their daughter. His family. His entire world, contained in this small hospital room. "What should we name her?" Lila asked softly. "We had that list, but now that she's here." They'd debated names for months. Sophia, Isabella, Elena. Traditional names. The baby. Mila yawned, a tiny squeaking sound that made them both laugh. She was so small, so fragile. Dante carefully extended his finger, and Mila's tiny hand wrapped around it, gripping with surprising strength. Something shifted inside him, tectonic and irreversible. He'd thought he understood love when he met Lila. Thought he knew what it meant to prioritize another person above himself. But this was different. This was primal, absolute. He would burn the world to ashes before he let anyone hurt this child. If you're loving this story, please hit that like button and drop a comment below. We love hearing your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Let's continue. A knock at the door interrupted the moment. Director Park stood there, her expression apologetic. "Mr. Moreno, Mrs. Moreno, may I come in?" Dante's jaw tightened. The rage he'd suppressed came flooding back. "1 minute, Director. Just one." Park entered, keeping her distance. Behind her, Dante noticed, stood a woman in a police uniform. Detective, judging by the badge. "First," Park began, "congratulations on your daughter. She's beautiful." "Thank you," Lila said coolly. Her warmth had evaporated. "Now tell us what you're doing about the woman who assaulted me." Park swallowed hard. "Nurse Tamsin Lee has been terminated. Effective. Immediately. We've also contacted the police. Detective Yoon Kim is here to take your statement if you're up to it." The detective stepped forward, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Mrs. Moreno, I'm Detective Kim. I understand you've just given birth, so I can come back if you need time." "No," Lila said firmly. "I want to do this now, while it's fresh." Dante squeezed her shoulder. "Are you sure?" I'm sure. Lila's voice hardened in a way he recognized. She was angry now, the shock and fear giving way to righteous fury. What happened to me was wrong. And if it happened to me, with my husband's resources and influence, what's happening to other women who don't have that protection? Pride surged through Dante. This was his wife, soft-hearted but steel-spined, always thinking of others, even in her own crisis. Detective Kim pulled out a notebook. Can you walk me through what happened, from the beginning? Lila recounted it all. The verbal abuse, the physical assault, being locked in the room, denied water and medical care. Her voice remained steady, though Dante felt her trembling against him. Mila slept through it all, peaceful and oblivious. Did anyone else witness this? Kim asked. I don't think so. We were alone. Lila's hand tightened on Dante's. She said her brother lost his business because of my husband, that I deserved to suffer because of who I married. Kim's eyes flicked to Dante. Mr. Moreno, do you know anything about that? David Lee, Dante said flatly. 3 years ago he tried to cheat me in a shipping deal. I ended the partnership and made sure others in the industry knew he was unreliable. His business collapsed. And you didn't know he had a sister working here? I don't investigate the family trees of everyone I do business with, Detective. Dante's voice carried an edge. But if I'd known she was here, I would never have brought my wife to this hospital. Kim nodded, scribbling notes. Mrs. Moreno, you have visible bruising on your face. With your permission, I'd like to photograph that as evidence. Yes, absolutely. The photos were taken. Throughout it all, Dante watched Director Park, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Director, Dante said once Kim finished, we need to talk about what happens next. Park straightened, visibly bracing herself. Of course, Mr. Moreno. I want to assure you that we take this incredibly seriously. Nurse Lee will never work in healthcare again, I can promise you that. That's a start, Dante replied coldly. But it's not enough. What protocols does your hospital have in place to prevent this from happening? We have complaint procedures, regular staff reviews, which clearly didn't work. Dante stood, carefully extracting himself from Lila. And Mila. He crossed the room to where Park stood, and she took an involuntary step back. A nurse with a personal vendetta was assigned to my wife's care. She had access to a vulnerable patient, unsupervised, with the ability to lock her in. Where were the checks and balances? We're investigating how this breakdown occurred. I'll tell you how it occurred, Dante interrupted, his voice dangerously quiet. Your hospital prioritizes privacy and discretion for wealthy clients. That means isolated rooms, minimal staff interaction, electronic locks that can be controlled by individual nurses. It's a system designed for convenience, not safety. Park opened her mouth, closed it. She had no defense. Here's what's going to happen, Dante continued. You're going to implement new protocols. Every room will have a panic button that alerts multiple staff members simultaneously. Patients will have access to phones at all times. No nurse or doctor can remove that access without documented medical cause. There will be mandatory training on patient abuse, bias, and conflict of interest. And most importantly, there will be patient advocates, independent observers who report directly to the board, not to hospital administration. Mr. Moreno, those changes would require significant resources. I don't care. Dante leaned closer. I will personally fund every single change. Consider it a donation to Golden Dawn Medical Center, conditional on implementation within 60 days. And if there's ever another incident like this, I will buy this hospital, fire every administrator, and rebuild it from the ground up. Are we clear? Park nodded rapidly. Crystal clear, Mr. Moreno. Thank you for your generosity. I'm not being generous, Dante corrected. I'm being practical. My wife wasn't the first woman abused by staff here, I guarantee it. But she will be the last. Detective Kim had been watching this exchange with interest. Mr. Moreno, that's quite an offer. Director Park, I'll want to see those new protocols in writing. The police department will be keeping a close eye on implementation. Of course, Detective, Park said weakly. Good. Kim turned to Lila. Mrs. Moreno, thank you for your statement. We'll be pressing charges against Tamsin Lee for assault and patient abuse. With your husband's resources, I'm sure you'll have excellent legal representation. Actually, Lila said quietly, I want a lawyer who specializes in medical malpractice and patient rights. Not for the money. I want to donate any settlement to organizations that help vulnerable patients. Dante wasn't surprised. This was Lila, always thinking of others. Whatever you want, mi amor. I'll make the calls. After Kim and Park left, silence settled over the room. Dante returned to the bed, to his family. Mila had woken and was making soft, mewling sounds, her tiny face scrunched up. She's hungry, Lila said, adjusting her hospital gown. With Nurse Victor's help, she began to feed Mila, wincing slightly at first before finding a rhythm. Dante watched, awed. This was life at its most fundamental. Mother feeding child, the oldest bond in existence. And he was privileged enough to witness it, to be part of it. You meant what you said, Lila murmured, about changing the hospital. Every word. That's going to cost a fortune. I have a fortune. Dante stroked Mila's head, marveling at how soft her hair was. Money is meaningless if I can't use it to protect people, especially people who can't protect themselves. Lila looked at him, her eyes shining. You know what that makes you? What? A good man. Dante huffed a laugh. Lila, I've killed people. I've destroyed lives. I operate outside the law. And you also feed the homeless in District 9. You pay medical bills for families who can't afford treatment. You gave my parents enough money to retire comfortably, even though they never asked. You stopped human trafficking operations in the port. She shifted Mila to her other breast. You're not all good, Dante, but you're not all bad either. You're just human. A human who put you in danger, Dante said, the guilt resurfacing. If I hadn't destroyed David Lee's business... Stop! Lila's voice was firm. You didn't assault me. Tamsin did. You didn't lock me in a room. She did. You're not responsible for someone else's decision to hurt me. But, no buts. Yes, your world is dangerous. Yes, there are people who hate you and want revenge. But that's not your fault unless you actually do something to hurt them intentionally and without cause. She paused. Did David Lee deserve what happened to him? Dante considered. He tried to steal from me and endangered my operations. If word had spread that I tolerated that behavior, my entire business would have been vulnerable. So yes, in that world, with those rules, he deserved the consequences. Then you did what you had to do, Lila said simply. And Tamsin chose to take out her anger on an innocent person. That's on her, not you. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to. But the guilt remained, a weight he'd carry alongside all the others. Mila finished feeding and let out a soft burp. Both Dante and Lila laughed, the tension breaking. She's perfect, Dante whispered. How did we make something so perfect? We're pretty amazing, Layla replied with a tired smile. Terrifying, but amazing. A new nurse arrived. Not Victor, but a kind-faced older woman, to check vitals and show Lila how to swaddle Mila. Dante watched carefully, memorizing every step. He'd be doing this too, changing diapers, giving baths, all of it. He wanted to be present, involved. His own father had been absent in every way that mattered, even when physically present. Dante would be different. Hours passed. Leela dozed, exhausted. Mila slept in the hospital bassinet. Dante sat in the chair beside the bed, watching them both. His phone had been buzzing constantly. Garrick with updates, lawyers with questions, business associates wondering about the abrupt meeting departure. He ignored it all. Finally, around midnight, Garrick appeared in the doorway. Sir? Everything all right? Come in, Dante said quietly, gesturing to a chair. Meet your goddaughter. Garrick's stern face softened as he peered into the bassinet. She's beautiful, boss. Looks like Mrs. Moreno, thank God. Kid's got a chance at normalcy. Dante chuckled. We both know there's no such thing as normalcy in this family. True enough. Garrick settled into the chair. Got some updates for you, if you're ready. Go ahead. Tamsin Lee is in police custody. Her apartment was searched. They found a notebook with detailed plans about how she was going to make Mrs. Moreno suffer. Premeditated, the DA is pushing for maximum charges. Good. David Lee, her brother, is being questioned too. Apparently, Tamsin's been financially supporting him since his business collapsed. He's been feeding her anger, pushing her to act. Dante's hands clenched, so it went deeper than one nurse with a grudge. Is he being charged? Conspiracy, possibly. They're building the case. Garrick paused. Boss, there's something else. The hospital's security footage shows Tamsin entering Mrs. Moreno's room 6 times during her shift. Each time she came out, she was angrier. She was working herself up to it. And no one noticed? The VIP wing is understaffed at night. Privacy, like you said. It's a systemic problem. Dante looked at his sleeping daughter. In a few years, she'd be old enough to understand the world wasn't safe, that people like Tamsin existed, people who hurt others because they were hurting themselves. How did you teach a child to be strong without making them hard? To be cautious without making them fearful? I want around-the-clock security when we take her home, Dante said. Discreet, but thorough. And I want background checks on everyone who comes near my family. Nannies, doctors, teachers, everyone. Already in progress, Garrick assured him. Mrs. Moreno might push back on that. She'll understand. Dante hoped that was true. Leela valued her independence, chafed against the restrictions his lifestyle imposed. But surely she'd agree when it came to Mila's safety. There's one more thing, Garrick said, his tone careful. The Castellanos. They're not happy you walked out of the meeting. Dante had completely forgotten about Marco Castellano and his territoriality disputes. It seemed like a lifetime ago. They'll get over it. Maybe. Or maybe they'll see this as a sign of weakness. You prioritizing family over business. Then let them. Dante met Garrick's eyes steadily. Let them all see it. My family comes first. Anyone who has a problem with that can find another partner. Garrick smiled slightly. Boss, with all due respect, you're getting soft in your old age. I'm 32. Ancient in our business. Garrick stood. I'll let you rest. Congratulations again. She really is perfect. After Garrick left, Dante moved to the bassinet. Mila was awake, her dark eyes staring up at nothing in particular. He picked her up carefully, cradling her against his chest. She was so light. So delicate. One hand could span her entire back. Hello, mija, he whispered. I'm your papa. I know I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, probably a lot of them. But I promise you this. I will always protect you. I will always love you. And I will do everything in my power to give you a better world than the one I inherited. Mila yawned, unimpressed with his declaration. Dante smiled. You're going to be trouble, aren't you? Like your mama. Strong and stubborn and impossible to argue with. He kissed her forehead. That's good. The world needs more women who don't take anyone's crap. Is my husband getting sentimental? Lila's voice was drowsy but amused. She'd woken and was watching them. Maybe a little, Dante admitted. He carried Mila over to the bed, settling beside Lila. I was just telling our daughter about her legacy of being impossible. I prefer determined, Lila said, reaching for Mila. And you love that about me. I do. Dante wrapped his arm around them both. I love everything about you. Even the parts that drive me crazy. They sat in comfortable silence, a family of 3. Outside, Solaria City continued its relentless churn, people working, fighting, loving, dying. The empire Dante had built still demanded attention, still had problems that needed solving, But for now, in this hospital room, none of that mattered. "What are you thinking about?" Lila asked. "The future," Dante replied honestly. "All the things I want to give Mila. Safety, education, choices. A life where she doesn't have to be afraid." "She'll have all of that," Lila assured him, "because she has us." "What if I mess up? What if my past—" "Dante." Lila turned to look at him fully. "You can't control everything. You can't predict every danger. All you can do is love her fiercely and teach her to be strong. That's what my parents did for me, and I turned out okay." "You turned out extraordinary," she smiled. "Well, Mila has the advantage of having both of us. Your strength, my compassion, your strategic mind, my empathy. She's going to be unstoppable." "God help us all," Dante muttered, but he was smiling too. Dawn came slowly, light creeping through the hospital room windows. Nurses came and went, checking vitals, offering assistance. Lila fed Mila again, changed her first diaper with Dante's help, an adventure that involved more wipes than seemed physically possible. "You're surprisingly good at this," Lila commented as Dante expertly fastened the tiny diaper. "I'm a quick learner." He washed his hands at the sink. "Besides, you're not doing all of this alone. We're partners, remember?" "Best decision I ever made," Lila said softly. "Saying yes when you asked me to marry you." Dante remembered that night. They'd been together a year, dancing around the intensity between them. He'd taken her to the pier at sunset, nervous in a way he'd never been facing down armed enemies. And when she'd said yes, tears streaming down her face, he'd felt like he'd won the lottery. "Second best decision," he corrected. The best was giving Mila a chance to exist. They spent the morning in a bubble, ignoring the outside world as much as possible. But reality had a way of intruding. Director Park returned with detailed proposals for the hospital reforms. Detective Kim called to update them on Tamsin's arraignment. Dante's lawyers arrived with documents to review. Through it all, Mila slept and ate and made small sounds that both terrified and delighted her parents. "We should talk about going home," Lila said that afternoon. She was sitting up in bed, looking much better than she had the night before. "I'm ready to leave." "Dr. Chen wants to monitor you for at least 24 hours, Dante reminded her. "Make sure there are no complications." "I feel fine, better than fine, actually." Leela stretched carefully. "I just want to be in our own space, in our own bed, with our daughter." Dante understood. This hospital, despite its luxury, held bad memories now. But he also needed to ensure Lila was truly ready. "Let me talk to Dr. Chen. If she clears you, we'll go home tonight." Dr. Chen was reluctant, but ultimately agreed, with conditions. Lila would need follow-up appointments, careful monitoring for postpartum complications, and strict rest for the next 2 weeks. "I'll make sure she follows every instruction," Dante promised. That evening, with Mila bundled in a going-home outfit that looked absurdly large on her tiny body, they prepared to leave. Nurse Victor stopped by to say goodbye. "Mrs. Moreno, it was an honor caring for you and your daughter," he said sincerely. "I'm sorry for what you went through, but I'm glad I could be part of making it better." "Thank you," Lila said warmly, "for everything. You were exactly what we needed." After Victor left, Dante secured Mila in her car seat, a process that took 3 attempts and made him sweat despite the air conditioning. Leela watched, amused. "You'll get the hang of it," she assured him. "This seat has more buckles than a parachute harness," Dante muttered. But finally, Mila was secure, sleeping peacefully through her parents' incompetence. The car ride home was slow and careful, Dante driving as if he were transporting the crown jewels. Every bump, every turn, made him wince. In the back seat, Leela held the car seat's handle, her eyes never leaving Mila. Their home was a penthouse in the heart of Solaria, with views of the entire city. Security met them at the private elevator, having done a full sweep of the apartment. Dante carried the car seat inside, Leela close behind. The nursery they'd prepared months ago waited, soft yellow walls and a crib that seemed too big for such a small baby. But it was home. Safe. Familiar. Theirs. She's really here, Lila breathed, standing in the nursery doorway. We're really parents. We really are. Dante set the car seat down gently, unbuckling Mila. She woke as he lifted her face scrunching up in preparation for a cry. Before any sound emerged, Layla was there, taking Mila into her arms and swaying gently. The potential cry faded, Mila settling against her mother's chest. Mama's got you, Lila murmured. You're home now, sweet girl. You're safe. Dante watched them, his heart full to bursting. This was his life now. This was what mattered. Not territory disputes or business deals or maintaining his reputation. This, his wife and daughter, safe and loved, was everything. That night, after Mila was fed and changed and sleeping in her bassinet beside their bed, Dante and Lila lay together in the darkness. Thank you, Lila whispered. For what? For being you. For coming when I needed you. For making me feel safe, even when I was terrified. She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. For being the man I knew you could be. Dante pulled her closer, mindful of her healing body. You make me want to be better. You and Mila. You're my redemption, Lila.